Hey everyone, I am so excited today to have Ram with me. Ram is an SVP and Managing Director at SAP IO. SAP IO invested in CloudApp last summer and it's been great to work with. A really fun group and really helpful, and also does a lot of investing in and accelerating in startups. So I'm excited to dig in a little bit with Ram on the modern workplace and how he's been kind of leading a team during all of this craziness. And would love to start off, Ram, if you could just kind of give us a little background on yourself, how you kind of got rolling at SAP and what you've been doing with SAP IO.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you, Joe, for having me. It's exciting to be here today and to share a few perspectives on, as we think about the modern workplace and remote work and some of the interesting tools like CloudApp that are enabling a kind of the future of work to happen now, right? So, Joe, as you mentioned, I'm Managing Director of SAP IO. That's SAP's strategic business unit focused on accelerating innovation and exploring new business models on behalf of SAP. And I've been in this role now for a few years, where we both make investments into early stage startups through the SAP IO Fund, as we did with CloudApp, really looking at companies who we think are more pathfinding, or maybe one of a kind, or we want to invest in as a signal to the ecosystem that we think there's significant value creation that can happen in this area, and would like to see more activity there. As well as the SAP IO Foundries, which are our global network of top-tier programs for startups, such as accelerator programs that are now active in 8 locations and are really focused on building a micro app ecosystem around SAP's core apps, whether they're in ERP or supply chain or HR or customer experience or spend management and procurement. So I've been at SAP now for about 10 years and had a variety of roles even prior to SAP IO or with SAP IO. I've had various roles in maybe a little bit more field-facing, customer-facing, where I worked with some of SAP's more strategic customers to help them identify, quantify areas and prioritize areas of opportunity where an investment in SAP solution could yield them tremendous value. And then from there, took on different roles from a strategic point of view, leading, say, go-to-market initiatives in different areas, or go-to-market strategy for regions or for global organizations. Had other roles like leading cloud and platform strategy, and then overall leading corporate strategy for the company. So kind of a varied career. And then before that, how I came to SAP is I started my career as an entrepreneur, but in a different area, in semiconductors, where co-founded backed by some VCs like Greylock and Sequoia, focused on building high-speed transmitters, receivers for the future generation of optical transport. So back in the early 2000s, we talk about how companies rent scale now. At that time, you had to build scale. We had to build our own semiconductor fab, right, to actually make our own devices that would then be deployed in systems. So it's a really truly a soup to nuts design, manufacturing, productize, package, sell type of thing, end to end under one roof. And then from there, after we acquired the company, is now part of Broadcom. And I said I should learn something about how business works at a different scale. And I ended up going to McKinsey for a few years, where I was part of or led a number of initiatives with engagements with companies in different areas in tech and telco primarily, but even in other areas like specialty chemicals. So kind of got a rounding of business from the entrepreneur side, from the big business side, but really got a deeper understanding of software there as well, in areas like virtualization, in services and so on, and data center operations, and then joined SAP, who is the leader in enterprise software applications, to be able to start putting that all together in an applied manner. So, and that's kind of a backwards and forwards approach to why I'm talking to you today. because as in 2015, when the company was thinking about how we needed to, keep our eye consistently, or our finger on the pulse of innovation.
Yep.
And we looked at the different trends that were happening, the emergence of the growth of the API economy, the kind of the rise of open source software, the platformization of development, of course, the introduction of the barriers to innovation being reduced through the being able to rent scale, with the rise of AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. And then finally, the rise of machine learning, being able to really take data to the next level. All of these kind of came together. And, as SAP, we said, we really need a different way to engage where this type of innovation, be able to tap into it for the benefit of our customers. Given that all of this, the leading edge of this area is happening in the world of startups, we decided we needed a different way to engage, really leading players in different areas, whether it came to technology or whether it came to applications or whether it came to new business models. And we set up SAP IO to do just that, which is how we ended up to meeting you. So
super fascinating. Yeah, your background is really interesting. Starting where you started, and then I think I felt a similar move from Adobe to CloudApp, and learning how to scale, and having less resources, less brand awareness. It's definitely different challenges. I love the move that SAP made, back in 2015 to kind of, it's really keeping investing where you guys see the future going, and making sure that those companies are directed, and that ends up benefiting you in multiple ways, for learning and being on the pulse, like you said, of innovation, and having acquisition targets, and just kind of understanding where things are moving.
Yeah, I mean, we set up everything really at the end of the day with our eye on the customer and what would benefit the customer long term, and really IO being kind of a bridge to that most relevant innovation for our customers, especially as we think about their needs in the context of what SAP offers and what their customers need. And being able to provide that in a curated fashion, I think has served, I would say, both has provided a level of simplicity in that our customers can now tap into the most relevant innovation in a more straightforward way, and it helps the ecosystem that we engage with connect to customers in a more straightforward way. And on both sides, being able to reduce that complexity has provided value more quickly, and that's what we're trying to provide, right? And at the same time, being able to get insights and learn about that innovation and bring those learnings back into the business. So we call it kind of the win-win-win.
Yeah.
At SAP IO, how we deliver value to customers, benefit to startups, and then strategic impact to SAP.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We've touched on the modern workplace and how SAP IO is really kind of investing in that. The trend was already moving to remote anyway. We did a survey of 1,000 office workers last fall for CloudApp, and we found that 57% of Gen Z was already working remotely the majority of the time. More than 50% of millennials were working remotely. San Francisco's expensive. New York's expensive. People are having to live further away. So how do you see the kind of current conditions that we're under right now helping accelerate that? The latest I saw was Qualtrics, which is a part of SAP now. Ryan announced yesterday, I believe, that they're going to let people work from home the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. So how do you think, all of this since March has really accelerated that remote movement?
Well, I mean, I think generally, I think companies, if they can, are letting people work from home or how they prefer, and if they can manage to work from home, if they need to work from home, they can work from home, right? And I think SAP has in some cases been at the forefront of that. As you know, you've heard Ryan's announcement. Definitely other parts of SAP have taken a similar approach, right?
Sure.
We first of all want to make sure our employees are safe, and can continue to deliver value to our customers in both an efficient and effective manner. And employee safety is a key consideration in both of those, right? And health and wellness. I think when it comes to, of course, then the longer term considerations, I think it's both dependent on the nature of the work, as well as the, say, the organizational function or the line of business that work is done within, right? So if you think there's some areas of work, for example, that perhaps are more decoupled or can be more decoupled, or are done in a transactional fashion. And we're familiar with some of those today. Perhaps there's some analysis that can be done on an individual basis. Code is often developed in a decoupled fashion, right? Customer service is many, you have hundreds of thousands of customer service agents now, probably millions, who are all working from home, right? And who have over time, right? Many, customer service has shifted to remote or to compartmentalized work over time as well. So, or call centers, for example. So it depends on the nature of the work, as well as, so you could think about this. So what has to be done in maybe the finance arena is maybe different than supply chain, or different in different areas of customer service or customer experience, whether it's sales or marketing or customer service, or even transaction or commerce. And then even procurement, right? So all of those different functions have different aspects of which can be metered out, or parceled out based on the nature of work, and that can be done in a more consistent manner. And then sometimes the nature of work requires more collaboration, right? And and so I think I would say when we're at 100% remote work today, for example, or nearly that. Of course, it depends on the industry as well.
Yeah.
Software, or high tech is one extreme. Of course, there's a lot of front-facing, customer-facing. We have a lot of essential workers, whether you're in hospitals or retail, who have to be on site, at least for now. When we think about long term, so if we think about kind of office work, for example, let's zero in on that.
Yep.
It depends on, I think, how much of each individual's work is done in kind of those modes of whether it's transactional, individual versus collaborative, and how productively or effectively those types of work can be done in a remote manner versus coming into an office to do it, and primarily to meet with other people, or in a sales role, or a service role to meet with your customer, right? That's kind of and what are the conditions that are required? One can imagine, still there might be 7-figure deals which a customer wants to be able to see you in person,
right?
Or they wants to have some in-person meetings to really dive down, because insights come out from that, right? At the same time, there may be, there are other pieces of work which are, can be always done independent. And so it depends on that. And we shouldn't lose sight as well of, and so there's, roughly speaking, there's those different categories. At the same time, how do we, often the genesis of insights that you will have stemmed from a water cooler conversation that you ran into somebody in the hallway, like say 3 months prior, and that was kind of the spark or the missing piece that filled in a hole of a puzzle that eventually came together over a period of time. And you remembered that conversation that plugged in, and now you have the complete picture, right? And so how do you keep those classic instances that can actually lead to, breakthroughs in a manner where, if you're working in a primarily distributed or remote world? So those are kind of the questions that you think about, right? And so, we see obviously many tools today that have been deployed, of course, Zoom being the one that is on top of everybody's mind, which is, enabling some feeling of face-to-face or personal communication, but which is, of course, in a very real-time manner, right? But often work, as we like to think, is done asynchronously as well. And are there ways to enable that? Or how do you enable some of these by chance collaborations or conversations that happen? I've heard of people just keeping Zoom windows open just on a separate screen, just in case people want to drop by and chat for a few minutes or something, but then there's probably some sense of a loss of privacy there as well, right? So, so I think it spans a broad, a spectrum or continuum of what type of work you're doing, what role in the organization it is, and what the industry is, right? But if we think for example, you and I are both in a world of high tech, of software. I think and that's something that we think about all the time. What does the nature of work look like? How much can be? And we're hearing, right? Companies like Facebook have announced by 2030 they expect almost half of their workforce to be working, in a remote fashion full time. But that also means that half of the workforce isn't, right?
Yep.
So
it's like there's
one reason or another.
There's still very much a reason for an HQ. Shantanu Narayan, CEO at Adobe, always called it serendipitous interactions. That's why they always had these big open spaces in all the HQ places where people could just meet up. And I know, being at such a big company, I would frequently take VPs or directors to lunch if they were open to it, and just ask them questions and just be really active in networking with people. And, that was something that I feel like would be a little harder, that we need to figure out to do in this environment. But I think what it has done, to a lot of your points, is really created confidence that, hey, we completely developed this policy in a week. We didn't need 6 months of HR review and legal review and all this other stuff. SAP, a company that employs a massive amount of people, came together and was like, okay, we're closing our offices. People are going to work from home. We're going to figure this out. And you figured it out. So I think for big companies, especially, it's hey, we can be nimble when we need to be. So I think there's some interesting confidence that will be built during this time.
Yeah, certainly when when you realize, hey, we the number one thing is we need to keep our employees safe. What's the best way to do that? Let's keep them at home, and then start to empower them with the tools they need. Things become, obviously, this is one of those more easier things to rally around
sure.
Right? It's
forced.
But how you how you effectively move forward then after you've made the decision, okay, we're all going to work from home. That's obviously and how are you going to work productively, right? So we even talk about, there's a lot of processes that need to be adapted into when you think about the virtual environment, right? And it's not just in tech, for example, it's also in areas like education. Your curriculum has really been built for in-person environments, in-person interaction. Now you're trying to provide that in an online, in a distributed, perhaps in an asynchronous manner. There are changes that need to be made. So similarly in the business environment as well, it gives you a chance to rethink through your processes of how you create and how you manage and how you distribute information, but then that leads to subsequent opportunities to reprioritize and maybe perhaps say actually that 20% of work we don't need to do. It's really not that important, and allows you to probably free up time and thinking for new for new opportunities, right? I certainly in the Bay Area and in other parts of the world, I think we see people finding that their overall output at the end of the day or at the end of the week has not actually dropped, because now they've gotten been able to free up time that was perhaps used in commute, right?
Yep. Yep.
Or used in other activities that are now can be put forward to work, or the effort is this, or the time is then redistributed to other perhaps more value creating activities.
Yeah, we did this analysis of CloudApp usage. My past life was an analyst at Adobe, so I love digging in the data and coming up with insights. So we looked at CloudApp usage, and we found that usage during the morning commute time was up about 3x, and after hours also was up almost 3x, and executive usage was up over 3x. So you have people communicating more frequently, creating videos, hopefully skipping the meeting and sending a CloudApp video instead. And then it's like, for me, I wake up, I do a little bit of work, and then I help my kids with school, and then I, do some more work, and then I eat lunch with them. And then, so it's not this 9 to 5 anymore. It's like this, weird different schedule, but fits in with what you said, still getting the same productivity done because you don't have those other things taking up your time.
And what I'm hearing as well from companies, including many startups that we work with, is that they actually have an opportunity now, more opportunities to engage with decision makers than they did before. Things that would have required a plane flight before, or some kind of travel to
Sure.
fit into some decision makers' time, is now all of a sudden, they have more time because they're not traveling. And there's more flexibility on both sides, since it's just a video call or a phone call versus having to meet in person, and a lot less coordination. Yeah, so the opportunities to actually be able to engage stakeholders have gone up, right? And so I'm not surprised that you're seeing 3x more activity during these times of, say, commute, because they're not commuting, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm certain during the day as well, even outside of commute, there's probably usage has gone up also, right? So.
Yep. Yeah, because there's even just like, if I think of my Adobe behavior, or even like your SAP behavior, I don't know, like walking between meetings, was like 10 minutes. Like I'd have to leave my desk. And if I was in San Jose, I'd have to like go up the elevator. I'd have to go across the bridge. I'd have to go down the other elevator and get to my room. And that, even that little bit of time walking between meetings or whatever is freed up.
Yep.
So with all of this kind of going on, CloudApp has, to your point, like has seen a big spike in EDU. We provide our Pro product free to EDU students and teachers, and have seen a lot of people embrace that. We provide it to a lot of accelerators for a free trial as well. Where do you see, the future of work leading with kind of this all accelerating that? How's CloudApp fit into that? And, the async and sync communication is a piece of that modern workplace.
Yeah, so it's a great question. And so as we were saying before, right, I think there's a piece around having the right tools, and then there's a piece around having the right processes that best enable folks to leverage those tools, right? So if we think about what the future of, say, sales engagement looks like, given that the process may look a little different, in how given your stakeholder availability, what that will look like, as well as different decision making is going to look like as well, because obviously we're in a different business environment than we were 3 or 6 months ago. That's going to then perhaps change how you manage your stakeholders or your sponsors within a business, right? And so, and that might require the need for a higher level of interaction, greater transparency, but then that also drives the need for a tool like CloudApp where you can do things, you can present and share information in a cleaner, more informative way than you could before, and in a manner which has become more easy to consume at a time when I, as the receiver, can consume it and ask questions and interact asynchronously as well.
Yep.
Right? So we will see processes. Right now the first thing is, okay, let's get everybody a whole bunch of tools. Yeah. And then people will kind of figure it out. Now I think over time they'll figure out, okay, how my product is going to work and what the optimal way to manage this, whether it's a sales process or procurement process or development process. And then this is how I leverage tools best to be able to drive that type of outcome, right? And so the one thing that I think is clear as we think about remote work, independent of kind of where you sit in an organization or how you operate across organization or across companies, is the need for higher levels of proactive communication, right? So if you're a manager managing a now distributed team, you really set aside more time to communicate individually with team members and as a group. Similarly, I'm seeing people now begin to not overinvest, but invest appropriately given the current environment, managing external stakeholders like your buyers or your sponsors or your vendors to make sure that they have what they need or you get what you need. And so, and to be able to, we talked about Zoom, they need, of course, again, for synchronous communications, but when you have a solution like CloudApp, which enables information sharing, but in an asynchronous manner, but yet allows this almost like a virtual synchronicity, it's incredibly valuable, right?
When I think about it from a big company perspective, I was a big user of CloudApp at Adobe, and I had this VP who would want like a weekly update, right? We didn't necessarily meet weekly because that was insane to try and do that many one-on-ones for a VP. But I would send her a CloudApp video because she got a million emails and sometimes would probably not even read my update. Not because of lack of want to read it, but I started sending her these videos and I was like, hey, let me know if this medium is easier for you. And she would listen to it. She wouldn't watch it, but listen to it on the way walking into the office. And that was a way where she didn't have to like consume it reading. It was auditory and it was significantly easier for communication. So that was like an aha moment for me of like, hey, I can like cut out these massively long emails and just send this, one line with a video. So I think we'll definitely see a lot more of that as people develop those skills.
I have not myself tried that as an update approach, but I think I might suggest it to my team to say, hey, let's start using, if it's easier for you to be able to share the information and just like, via a CloudApp video, let's do that, right? Versus just sending me an email to a link to an Excel sheet, just walk me through it. And then that's probably even better, right? So,
yeah, it's a nice way to consume. And then hopefully everyone is getting less scared of recording video. All of our videos that you see like publicly are like one take. Ums and ahs, like all of our marketing is ums and ahs and like normalizing video because we want people to know that it's okay, like we're human, it doesn't have to look professional. It's most important about the content. So Ram, it was really great having you. A lot of fun to finally connect and have you on. I'm excited about SAP IO and all the help that you guys have provided with us, and we love working with you. So thanks for joining us today.
Likewise, and I'm looking forward to seeing how CloudApp can help our the teams we work with internally and externally take, really drive engagement across all functions to the next level, because I think this is not only pertinent in today's environment, but going forward. So
fantastic. Thank you, Ram. Have a great weekend, and we will talk soon.
Yep. Thank you so much.